You're listening to the Ryen Russillo podcast presented by FanDuel. America's #1 sportsbook is the best place to bet on the NBA because not only does FanDuel have all of your favorite player props, but now you can even check out stats and recent performance trends right in the app before you make your picks. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app today to get in on the action. The Ringer is committed to responsible gaming. Please visit rg-help.com to learn more about the resources and helplines available and listen to the end of the episode for additional details. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Today's podcast, it is our annual Todd McShay and Daniel Jeremiah Draft Fest. We're going an hour deep. We're going to give them war room scenarios, the names they've heard with the teams in the first round. If this guy doesn't go in the first round, I love this pod. It's one of my favorite episodes of the year. And also, we'll touch on the Nico Iamaleava saga, which is no longer in Tennessee. And we've got life advice with Wargon today. So get ready. I am excited. This is one of my favorite pods to do of the entire year, and we do it pretty regularly now as you get ready for the NFL draft, not that far away from the NFL Network. It is Daniel Jeremiah who joins us, and also a reminder, as an NFL Network analyst, he'll be part of the NFL Network coverage live from the draft from Green Bay. That's April 24th through the 26th. You can also just check out his Move the Sticks podcast, and of course, my good friend Todd McShay from the McShay Show here at The Ringer. You can hear his pod numerous days throughout the week as they're ramping up the content, and his newsletter, which I subscribed to this morning, just to make sure I was getting all the latest Todd content. So good to see you guys. Thanks for doing this.
It's good to see you. Good to see you, Todd. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, good to see you, DJ. It's been a minute. I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great, man. You are absolutely crushing it, by the way. Not only the content, I don't know who you got working on this thing, but like the quality of videos that you guys are promoting, what you guys are doing from a podcast standpoint is ridiculous. I don't know if there's an army of 1,000 people working on this.
My guy, Eduardo, I got to give him props. He's the best clip guy in the business.
Dude, you got the best clips. It's not even close. I'm like, we got to get our clip. I got to step my clip game up, man.
Incredible clips.
I appreciate it.
I agree. All right, let's go to the top, right? Where does the uncertainty start? How soon does it start in this draft? We'll start with you, DJ.
Well, I think I feel pretty certain about one, that being locked in. I would say if you're going to put a percentage on it, it seems like everything's directing and trending towards Travis at 2. I really think 3 is where the draft kind of starts and where the fun begins. I'm leaning at this point in time where we're recording this that they're not going to go quarterback, that they're going to take Abdul Carter or they're going to trade and get out of there. That's not from inside the building. That's just my observation on the whole thing. And that's where the fun starts.
I agree. And obviously, the last minute and Giants brass flying out to Boulder, Colorado for the Shedeur Sanders private workout has added some intrigue, right? It's interesting because I had a conversation with the general manager this weekend, and he, because I don't want to say I was closing the book, but I was kind of like, all right, yeah, Abdul Carter 3 Giants, and then we'll see how this whole thing plays out. And he's like, I've talked to some people, like it's split. I wouldn't say split. There's it's a little bit contentious inside the Giants draft room, and there's some people that are pushing hard for Shedeur. I also wonder too, at this point in time with ownership, we hear a lot of stories after the fact of ownership getting involved when it comes to the quarterback position and drafting that high. So that part's fascinating. The other thing, though, the conversations I'm having, and I'm curious what you're hearing, DJ. It's like I think everyone views it as Cam Ward's going 1, right? The Titans, that thing's done. But then it's like we kind of want our cake and eat it too. Like we're interested in these other quarterbacks, whether it's Shedeur Sanders, Jackson Dart, I think is more fits for like what New Orleans wants. There's a lot of talk about Jalen Milroe early second, and now he's invited to the draft, and that adds some intrigue. Tyler Shuck is a name that keep hearing, talking to people in the league, really would like to get him in the second round, but maybe you never know if there's that one team that trades up. I'm fascinated to see, because if Cleveland passes on quarterback, which we all expect at 2, and the Giants pass on Shedeur at 3 and take Abdul Carter, Now you've got Cleveland at 33, Giants at 34, the Saints at 40, all kind of sitting there waiting, trying to figure out when do you have to move up. I'm told that Shedeur is a favorite of Mike Tomlin's and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So it's kind of that range of, all right, if they don't go in the top 9, then where do you have to trade up to go get that guy? Or do you sit back and wait? So all the conversations I'm having are about, like, is there, Atlanta at 15 only has 5 picks. Minnesota at 24 only has 4 picks in the entire draft. Could they be teams that move out for a team that's coming up? So that's fascinating. Like, from our perspective, to sit back and kind of watch and wait and see if Shedeur doesn't go 3, this draft is going to be a lot of fun on the first night.
The GMs that you talk to during this time of the year that are super bummed are the GMs that are picking after the Pittsburgh Steelers at the bottom of round 1, because their conversation is like, gosh, I'd love to get the heck out of here. But the teams that are coming back up for a quarterback have identified Pittsburgh as a potential landing spot for quarterbacks. So if I'm picking behind Pittsburgh, I'm screwed, because if they want to trade back up for a quarterback, they got to get to 20, and that's Denver. So it's 20 or north if you're going to bypass those guys at the top. And that's just the overall feeling, Ryan, on this, on the quarterback class and on the draft. I would say, to kind of put a bow on this little thing, like Cam Ward's in his own category, done, locked, number 1, viewed as a first-round pick in most drafts. Like, he's that caliber of a player. However you stack him with previous drafts, like he's viewed as a first-round guy. I would say there's not universal acceptance of the rest of these quarterbacks as first-round guys. And I'm telling you, there's a big difference. I joined 2 organizations after drafts where they had 2 first-round picks. And I joined Baltimore after they took Bowler, right? So Kyle Bowler ends up being a monumental bust. But it took Terrell Suggs before they took Bowler. So Suggs was the first person to speak at that press conference. That worked out all right. Cleveland takes Brady Quinn, but before they took Brady Quinn, who didn't work out, they took Joe Thomas, Hall of Famer. So to me, like, that, there's a difference between introducing Abdul Carter and then asking Jackson Dart to come speak, and that's a different level of pressure on that kid and on your organization than, we just took Shedeur Sanders with the 3rd pick.
Is Campbell a reach in the 4-5 range, tackle from LSU?
Historically, yes, probably. In this draft, not for me. I mean, I think he's like 9th or 8th, 9th, 10th player. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but it's such a screaming need for New England and what they're playing with right now. And I think he's going to be at worst, he's going to be 8-10 year starter somewhere along your offensive line. If he has to kick in, he has to kick in. But on that one, I think the work ethic, intangibles, everything you hear out of LSU is worthy of that pick. The tape probably is not. But in this draft, that's what we have.
What's interesting, DJ, is, and it's the last thing anyone wants to talk about. But when I talk to teams, and this offensive line group is more so than in most years, there's question marks, right? And whether it's age and immaturity or a past incident or whatever it is, let's just throw a blanket over. There are a handful of guys that we're talking about in the first-round range with these offensive tackles that it's like, yeah, but, there's a little concern. And so the cleanest of the guys, I would say absolutely, is Campbell. Campbell's one of the cleanest prospects in the entire draft. And then I would say Kelvin Banks Jr., whose tape wasn't great either. That Georgia tape you can pull up, and there's a couple other games where it doesn't match up, but there's 42 starts. And the good Lord only makes so many people that are that big, that can move like that have a little pop in their hand. Like, so I think you're going to see, whether it's Campbell at 4, Banks Jr. from Texas going at 10 or 11, Chicago, San Francisco. I think those guys will come off the board earlier than maybe the tape says, because history tells us, I think it's like 5.7 tackles go in the first round the last 3 years. And it's like 1.3 or 1.7 in the second round. Like, if you don't get that guy in the first round, there's a drought after that. And so I think teams are looking at it, and the Patriots specifically trying to get some leadership in that offensive line room with their star quarterback, trying to develop him in Drake May. That, like, all right, we don't get a superstar here, but we're going to sleep really well Thursday night going into Friday, the draft, knowing that we got a guy that's going to be ready to play and is going to bring a lot of leadership to this organization.
We've seen Genty basically everywhere in the top 10, and the more you dig into the guys that do this, like yourselves and everybody else, it's just like, look, this guy is so special. Like, it's not just that he's the best running back in this class. We're talking about ranking him against the number 1 running backs and other other drafts. And so that feels, I don't know if it's a philosophical shift away from where we've been with running backs for a long time in this league, which I've totally understood and I've talked about it. But do you either, and Todd, I guess I'll start with you on this one. Is there any philosophical shift that you've had about position, about evaluation, about the way you talk about fit versus need and coaching? Is there anything, you've been doing this, both of you guys, a really long time, but I'm sure you evolve also as evaluators, and something that you think of now that you didn't think of years ago?
I there's a couple ways to look at it. First of all, talent always trumps trends, if you will. And in 2017, we were in the midst of everyone spreading things out and pass-happy offenses and the college game kind of trickling up with more tempo and all these different things, and the running back position being devalued. Yet, like Leonard Fournette and Christian McCaffrey went in the top 10, and 30 running backs were drafted that year. So it starts with the talent. And this is one of the most talented groups, I don't know about DJ, but that I've ever evaluated from top to bottom, especially when you get past like the Genties and the Omari and Hamptons, and you look and you're like, wait, I can get that guy in the third round. I can get an RJ Harvey or a DJ Giddens or a Dylan Sampson, like the third, fourth round. Like, so I think that's the jumping off point. I do think in a league where everyone's complaining about all these too high shells and you have to, taking away some of these great quarterbacks and the deep ball and all that stuff, there's a counter to it. And a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people complained when Detroit took Jahmyr Gibbs that high in the first round. Not a premium position, running backs being devalued. What are they doing? Well, Brad Holmes, the general manager, he knew his personnel, knew his offensive coordinator and Ben Johnson, and knew they needed to have a counter to what was going on in terms of defensive coverages and the schemes that were being played against his offensive attack. So I think Genty, no matter where we are in the NFL, is a top 10 pick. No matter what era it is, no matter what emphasis it is on the passing game or run, he's a top 10 pick. I do think last year, watching Saquon and watching Derrick Henry and watching some of the impact of the running game and knowing what's going on defensively, we saw more of an emphasis on the running back position. I think this year it'll play out in the draft. There's going to be a lot of backs that go in the first 3 rounds.
Yeah, it's a good running back group. With him specifically, I've always had kind of this philosophy on running backs. We've talked about it. I think, Ryan, we maybe even had this conversation earlier this year about like the Detroit thing, what Todd was just mentioning with Jahmyr Gibbs. And I think to me, the importance is the order of operation. Like I've just kind of used the analogy of like, hey, you got to do your shopping at the hardware store before you go to the toy store. Like Detroit built up the line of scrimmage. They had the offensive line. They had the key positions. They had the edge rusher on the defensive side of the ball. All the marquee guys, all the marquee spots filled. Okay, now you can drop the running back in and do it with a high resource. And I have no problem with that whatsoever. When you get in trouble is if you get the cart before the horse, knowing these running backs only have, most of them 6-year, 7-year max prime, and you've wasted 3 years on bad teams of those carries. Like I want all of your carries to matter once I start the clock on the running back. So that's kind of been my philosophy there. But Genty as a player, he's my 3rd player in this draft. And I've talked to teams and kind of said, like, this kind of sums up this draft. It's a little different than years past. 3 of my top 7 players are 2 tight ends and a running back. Like that's, yeah. So at some point in time, it's like, I get positional value. I would love to throw a bunch of tackles up there and a bunch of proven edge rushers and quarterbacks and stack those guys up at premium positions. They're not in this draft. And I think like you make big mistakes when you pass on a great player at a lesser position to take somebody just to fill a need. Like I think that's when you mess up, man.
DJ, I went back and looked last year, right? And I think this is a big difference in the 2 drafts, 2024 and 2025. I don't have the exact numbers in front of me, but I think it was 9% of the first round were non-premium position players. Yeah. We talk about premium, obviously quarterback, pass rusher, cornerbacks that cover the wide receivers, and the wide receivers have become, and offensive tackles. Mm-hmm. So all the interior offensive line, linebacker, safety, tight ends, it was 91% of the first round was premium positions. And then only 17% in the second round was the non-premium positions. And then you got to the third round where everyone's comfortable taking those guys. 54% were the non-premium position. This year's going to be different, man. We got 2 guards, Zabel and Booker, who are going to probably go in the first round. We've got the 2 tight ends, maybe 3 with Mason Taylor at the very end coming out of LSU. We've got running backs, so it's going to be really interesting this year how teams are going to kind of have to throw that premium picks on premium positions out the window because you got to chase the talent.
I've used the term for this real quick, Ryan. It's just as a starters draft, not a stars draft. So your goal was to leave this draft with 3 or 4 starters, like solid starters. You do that, you did a good job. That's the goal.
Yeah, I really like that. I was listening to you and Buck on your Move the Sticks pod and kind of just going, look, let's figure out some ways that guys can contribute, long term here instead of trying to hit home runs on some of this stuff. So, is there a position where you're looking at it, Todd, and you're thinking, okay, if you have a need at this spot, like you better get your work done by this pick? Is there a position where the gap from like the 4th guy to the 5th guy is just massive and it's going to be teams regretting that they didn't get it done in the mid-second round?
I think offensive tackle, we kind of covered that, right? I think there's a drop off when you get past the first 5 or so. Okay. And that's typical. What's interesting this year is like the edge class, like we could have a record setting number of defensive linemen, interior and edge go in the first 3 rounds. I think 26, I went back 30 years. 26 is the most we've had in a given class. I've got over 30 graded with grades in the top 3 rounds. So you would think, well, we don't have to get our edge guy early. We can get it, but there's a big difference to me. And the interior is a little deeper, and I don't feel like the drop off is as massive. There's 6 guys that are edge defenders that are probably going to go in the first round, and if one doesn't, it might have to do with some character and some baggage type of stuff. But we're talking about Abdul Carter, the 2 Georgia guys, right? Jalen Walker and Mike Williams, Mike Green, James Pierce, and Donovan Ezeraku. I think that's all of them. But there's 6 guys that you feel really good about in the first round. And I know, DJ, we've talked about this before. You kind of, when you go through this process, it's kind of this combo pick thing. Every general manager I've talked to, it's the combo package. Okay, so if we take an edge here and we need a running back, what's the running back that's going to be available? Well, maybe it's Quinshon Judkins or Travion Henderson in round 2. But if I go running back here with Genty and I still need to get an edge in round 2, I get Genty, that's wonderful. But now we're talking about like Nick Scorton from Texas A&M or Braden Swinson later in the second. So there's a big drop off. And I think a lot of teams right now, as they're putting together their boards and trying to kind of plan for the weekend, is if we go with this non-premium position player in the first round, even though we have the grade that matches up, what's the drop off at the other position that we're looking to attack?
Yeah, I think it's a great point. I do think this is like the edge group, man. It's not cake and eat it too with this group, man. Like it is the most traits versus production edge group that I've ever seen. Like, and you will talk, I literally get off the phone with one defensive coordinator, turn around, talk to another GM or head coach. And it's like, they see it completely opposite in terms of these guys. So that clump of 6 guys, which those are the names, like those are going to go in all different orders. And then, but there are some teams who are more that prefer like the rugged edge guy that like they're Scorton teams. And then they see the upside with Tuamalo from Ohio State, like in those early second round. Some teams think that. And I like those guys. Again, it's got to be the right defense, the right scheme, the right fit, that those guys have a place. But to me, like I don't know how else to answer the question than to say, like, if you don't get on if you don't go to the first concert on the tackle tour, there is no second concert. Like, it's it, man. Like they're gone. And that's why if I'm going over my list and you said, tell me the one guy where you have him, where he's going to go much higher than you have him at graded as a player, Kelvin Banks is going to go way ahead of where I have him. Like I have him in the late 20s. And if he could go in the top 10 when it's all said and done. So I didn't think I saw a top 10 player on tape. Todd, you referenced the size, the athleticism. He's a great kid. He's played a lot of ball. So I've just accepted that fact, and I went back and watched a little more, and I'll move him up a little bit, maybe into the early 20s, but I couldn't, just for me. And that's the weird part, Ryan, when you're doing this without a team to draft for, and you're stacking these guys, like it's going to look different this year because some of these teams you're going to see a need-based approach this year, maybe more so than any I can remember.
What separates like the edge guy where you go, this is why he's a first round grade, as opposed to just insane production and then you have 4th round grades on them. Because I think as a college football fan, there's a lot of dudes on Saturday where it's like, oh, this guy's making plays left, right. And, this is where I'll use some of the NBA stuff like Walt Clayton Jr. with Florida in the NCAA tournament. They win the national championship. He has this great SEC tournament run. He has unbelievable shot making in the NCAA tournament. And most of the year when I would look at it, which again was late, so I shouldn't say it was the entire year, it was like, oh, this guy's not even a first rounder. And like, I understand because it's not premier athleticism. He's older as a prospect. Like there's just things that you use against somebody who yet is staring you right in the face on television going, how are there this many players ahead of him? So specific to the edge group, like what's the difference between a 1st and a 4th rounder, especially if the 4th rounder was like contributing to winning plays all season long?
I've compiled a lot of notes over the years talking to offensive tackles about pass rushers. And the thing that they all typically say is, like, I don't care if you run a 4.3 off the edge. If you don't have power, then I can prepare for that 4.3. And the vice versa. If you're all power, but you don't threaten me with speed, then I'll bow up and I'll get in a good solid stance and I'll be ready for the bull rush. It's the guys that can do both and threaten with both. The speed, quickness, and power. The speed and quickness is one aspect of the game, and then the power being the other. The other thing is, and I go back like Bill Belichick, one of the first things I learned in scouting, he said, when I had a dinner with him and Gary Horton and Scott Pioli, study the tape that's applicable, and I think anytime, it doesn't take a super scout or a genius to figure out, like, all right, there's five games where he's going up against offensive tackles. Maybe it's 2, but whatever that number is, find those games and see how much he threatened and how many problems, what kind of havoc he wreaked against those players. Because it doesn't matter what he does against, subpar guys that aren't going to play in the league. Focus on those games. That's going to give you the answer to the test. And when you watch these guys, and whether, Mike Green, there's not a lot of applicable tape. It doesn't, because he's playing at Marshall and Ohio State, and everyone says, well, Simmons, he went up against Josh Simmons twice in that game. He had 2 matchups against him. So you got to find, and I think that's why it was so important at the Senior Bowl, what he did in a couple of days of practice. So it stands out when you start to stack and watch tape after tape of all of these guys, what the difference is. And typically it's the ability to win both ways.
Is that the Vernon Golston counter? Because he had the tape.
There was some, we could have a 10-minute discussion on Vernon Golston and all that, but
I remember the draft.
Vernon Golston would have to do a 3-point turn to get in your kitchen behind you.
Yes.
He was a little stiff.
Yes.
Yes,
there you go.
Yeah.
Right, but wasn't it the tape against Michigan that got him drafted that high? Where they were looking at, it was Jake Long, right?
Gosh, was that year? That's a long time ago, man.
Yeah.
That's going in my way.
I think
back
I just
machine.
remember. Well, one I remember because Todd would come by the studio and he would just be exasperated. He'd be like, I just don't see it. I just don't see it. So I'm giving you credit for that one. And then
that one, dude.
Every time they would show his highlight tape, it was, I think he made 2 plays against Jake. And that was pretty much it. And So anyway, 3 years.
There's a lot more to go off of now too. And there's so much easier ways to sort stuff too, where you can jam video. Whereas a lot of times back in those days, we're watching, especially like if you're an area guy going in there, you're watching 3-4 games and moving on to the next school. Like now you can watch literally in a very convenient, efficient manner, every single pass rush of his, going back years and just knock it all out. I think it's easier to scout now than it was back in the Vernon
it's so
Golston
much easier.
years.
It's so much easier.
1,000%. On the pass rusher thing, which I love the topic. A couple of different things I was thinking of why Todd was talking there. I was at a Padre game last week, and you guys know I'm a huge Padre fan. So I go up there and I visit with AJ Preller, who's done an unbelievable job, building baseball teams, and we love talking about scouting. And so I said, we're talking about pass rushers. I was talking with the defensive line coach the other day, and I said, what would you rather have, a wide repertoire, or would you rather have a guy who can just be dominant in one aspect or another, like he has legit power, legit speed, or what have you? And he said, look, in college, like you see a lot of guys who are real technicians, and they can win 5 different ways against crappy college tackles, but they don't have one elite way of getting to the quarterback. And in the NFL, the only way to a quarterback is to possess an elite trait, whether that's with your speed, whether that's with your power. The guys that are technicians can get there, but it takes more time because they're going to have to accumulate the knowledge base and learning different tackles, learning tendencies, and then they can kind of think their way to the quarterback. But those guys don't transition right away. Liatu Latu last year was the polished pass rusher out of UCLA, did not have an immediate impact. Look at what Trey Hendrickson has become, and he's developed a lot of these things, but he was kind of a technician. Now he's kind of learned other ways to get there, and it was probably year 3 or 4 when he started to explode. So I'm talking to him about pitchers, and I go, AJ, like, how would you guys look at pitchers? Would you have a pitcher, like a 5-pitch mix? He said, no, give me Randy Johnson, fastball, slider. That's all that you need. There's a bunch of guys like that who are dominating players with 2 pitches. So some of these college guys, I think, they play the game the way they have to play it to beat college tackles.
Like Donovan Azaraku.
That's the point. That's the one. So he's got to shrink his arsenal, and he's got to develop some power, which he hasn't shown yet. And I think he will. But I think, to me, like, I like him. But I'll say when he gets picked, hey, be patient. Don't expect that this is going to light the world on fire, year 1, year 2. This is going to be a little bit of a process for him. I'm going to bet on him. I like his length. I like kind of compact guys with long arms, and I think he's really freaking smart, and he figured out how to beat college tackles. It's going to take him a minute to kind of shrink the arsenal and figure out how to beat NFL tackles.
Yeah, I guess I keep thinking about Swinson at LSU, and I know he's been around forever, and that statistically this past year was off the charts, but he was probably one of the most consistent edge guys I saw in, now people are calling it the second best conference in college football, but he's just not in that group. I mean, he's outside. It's not like he's going in the 4th round, but maybe it's the speed part of it, because he certainly has that. So I just always like thinking about edge guys that you fall in love with on Saturday, and then we get to this time of the year and you're like, wait, where the hell's that guy going?
Right.
But by the way, real quick, Todd, how much have you enjoyed? I've enjoyed the heck out of realignment, man. Like getting a chance to see like the West Coast, like USC and UCLA, Washington, Oregon, get to play against all the Big Ten offense and defensive linemen. Like, it's made that a heck of a lot easier.
It has. I do feel bad for our buddies who are area scouts, though. Like, just talking to them, like, yeah, man, I used to go into Ole Miss. And it's not, this is more NIL and transfer portal and all, and so it honestly, that part makes it easier too, because we're like, they wind up transferring. If you're a great player, like 90% of the guys who are great players at small school level, and obviously it's kind of hard because every year you want to find those small school guys, but there's not many of them anymore because they're all playing against, they graduated. They graduate to
football graduation,
to the highest level. Yeah. But these poor scouts, man, like, I was talking to one who was like, yeah, I used to go into Ole Miss and it was like 12, 14 players I'd have to do in the summer and get ready, do all. And it's not just watching, it's the background checks and it's, figuring out who they are as the person and all that. And he's like, this year I had 30. Yeah. It's just like not sustained. It's insane the number of players that each school has that you've got to evaluate. But yeah,
that's a sitcom.
Purposes,
that's a sitcom, yes. By the way, is inside. Like I can just picture it. I obviously haven't been in there, but I can just picture it. Knowing scouts as you do, that you're going to sit in there and like, guy's going to read his report. He's going to have a 1st-round grade on him. And Ryan, he's going to go, hold on. Is that the Smith that was in my area 2 years ago? That kid, that's the guy that you like? I didn't even realize he was at that school.
The rare vote for realignment. Which we have not done a lot on this pod. Okay, let's stay with this, though, because, look, I think Harold Fannin Jr. is a really good example of this, a tight end from Bowling Green. I remember, for whatever reason, I think it was because of the new offensive system at Penn State, like early on, I was like, all right, I want to see what Aller looks like. And then all of a sudden, you're just watching Fannin, who it just felt like a dude. I mean, he had 11 for 137 in that game, and Bowling Green would drop back. The quarterback was tough as hell too. And then it was like, just get it to Fannin. And Fannon's just like trying to beat dudes off of him the entire time. So you have tape going up against one of the better teams in college football this year. Is there a position where it's like, okay, this is tough for me to figure out or justify, like, your tape's really good in your league and at your level, but I don't have enough crossover for you going up against better tackles or whatever? Or can you just look at somebody like Fannin and be like, the Penn State tape is enough? I imagine it's different for different positions.
He had another one against A&M too. So that helped his cause. When he was running away from everybody at the Texas A&M field, you're like, okay, like this guy, that's enough for me. But to your question, and Todd, I'll kick it to you. But like, it's just line of scrimmage to me. Like, it's hard to evaluate a tackle who's going up against an accountant and a doctor. Like, it's hard. So that to me, the line of scrimmage is tougher. The skill guys, and especially if you can get them in an all-star setting, and that's that can be the answer to the test.
The Senior Bowl is the great equalizer for a lot of these guys, though. Like, honestly, I don't know that a lot of guys would have been drafted as high, and I don't know that people would have understood that, oh, they're capable. And that's why it's so important, like the East-West Shrine Game, the Senior Bowl. Look at, like, the offensive linemen are the toughest, right? Mm-hmm. Because, like, they're just not going up against the dudes that someone from Michigan or Texas or Georgia or out, like, they're just not going up against those dudes. And like Kelvin Banks, it was like murderer's row.
Yeah.
His tape, every week it was a new, like, first or second round defensive lineman. So you get a really good feel for these guys. But I will say this, like, we've seen a lot of guys go through Mobile, Alabama, right? Like Teron Armstead, Ali Marpet, Cody Mock, Dylan Ray Nunes, Quinn Miners, like, and this year,
this year.
And this year with Gray Zabel, it gives you a confidence that, okay, all those guys have gone on to have good careers. It was small school, but they handled their business in Mobile in that setting, and the same with Zabel. But yeah, those are the toughest evaluation, the guys in the trenches.
We're coming down the stretch of the NBA season, and the best place to get in on the action for all the best games is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because with FanDuel, there's so many ways for you to play. They've got all of your favorite bets, from who will win the game to player props for points, assists, rebounds, and so much more. Let's look at the board. So play-in festivities begin tonight. So, look, I kind of like 4 sides straight here. I like Golden State. I like Orlando minus the 5.5. But I know it scares me a little bit when it's like you like all 4 games. You feel pretty good about it. So what I wanted to look at here was Miami and Chicago. Chicago just beat Miami. The crazy thing is, like, Miami went through that awful stretch, and it looked like they were one of the worst teams in the league there for a little while, even though, talent-wise, that's not the case. And if you look at where Miami is in the last 15, which is just a very strange time of the year. Like, I put stock into the fact that the Clippers have been 13-2 in their last 15. Offensive rating is #1 in the NBA. Defensive rating is #3 in the NBA after the Golden State game. It was #1 before that when I did the numbers on Sunday morning. So I think that's somewhat real. But at the same time, you look at the Thunder, who went 13-2 in the last 15, and I don't even know that they attacked the last 15 games of the season, which, again, I think is scary for the rest of the teams. So let's go back to net rating here. Miami's 5th in the NBA in net rating, and Chicago's 7th. Chicago's also 11-4 in the last 15 games. My guess is this number is based on just a lot more faith in Miami. Even though the way they've played, being like, all right, look, it's still the Miami Heat. They're going to have pride, and the Chicago thing is offensively fueled, and it's certainly not defensive stuff, because if you look at the defensive numbers here for Chicago, they're actually not terrible the last 15 games. So again, the last 15, if you watch this league all season long, you don't really know what to make of what you're actually watching out there and specific to the game. So let's get to an actual pick here, because this breakdown's taking too long. I like Chicago -1 at home against the Heat. That's the official play. If you really want to boost it, you want to get wild, how about Chicago Bulls? But their defensive philosophy is let Tyler Hero go off. He goes for 45 plus. $10 wins you $1,400. So, plus 14,000 on that combo if you really want to get dangerous. But yeah, I kind of just like Chicago laying the point in this one. Sounds good? Well, you can score an even bigger win, because FanDuel is giving you a profit boost for all of tonight's action. Just check the FanDuel Sportsbook app to see how much you got, or head over to FanDuel.com/Ryen, Ryen, for more info. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 and older and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Opt-in required. Minimum 3-leg parlay required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable profit boost tokens. Restrictions apply, including any token expiration and max wager amount. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Okay, let's play a little War Room Fallers. So you know the drill. I'm going to give you a team. I'm going to give you the pick, and then I'm going to give you.
This is America's favorite game, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, so Cleveland goes.
Russillo's always good for this stuff, right?
That's fantastic.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if this is my best year, but maybe we'll do it again. You know, well, you guys are like, actually, we're really busy, so this is all the time you're getting.
No,
so
we're
make
done.
make it good now. Okay, Cleveland, 33rd pick. They went with Carter in the first round, and Shador's gone. Milroe, Jackson, and Shuck are all available. So just talk it out in the war room, guys.
Yeah, Todd, I think I'm going to take my swing with Jackson Dart here. I just think his physicality matches the division there. I like the fact that he's rugged. I like the fact he keeps getting better and better. Shuck, the age doesn't bother me as much as the durability bothers me. So, and I know, by the way, your take on my least favorite thing that people say during this time of year, they're a bunch of freak injuries. I mean, they don't count. They're just freak injuries. So those don't count towards your durability. Your thoughts?
I like Tyler Shuck a lot. If there's any, and yes, they're the 3 broken bones, and so you can chalk that up however you want. Some guys are more prone to having those kinds of injuries, but if you're banging the table for him, you're saying they're broken bones. It's not like some chronic like Achilles or something that's typically going to be degenerative, right? When I talk to teams, though, the thing with him and the maturity, what he's been through, all of that is the biggest question. Is I don't mind that he's 25, and I love the maturity. I love all those things, and I see the tools because he's bigger than all these other guys. He's faster on a straight line than all these other guys. He's got his arm stacks up. All those things. It's one year of starting. So now I'm getting a 25-year-old who's only had 1 full year starting in college. Where do I in the NFL get him more game reps? And we're seeing all these guys come in the league, like Bo Nix with 60 plus starts, Jaden Daniels with like 56 starts. Like guys who are having success early on, we've seen in recent years are taking advantage of the transfer portal and the extra years in college. So, but to answer your question, I'm going with Jackson Dart here. And I think Jackson Dart, I really like him. His versus pressure clip reel, 161
he hangs
snaps.
In there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's a lot to like with him. It might take a minute, but I got a minute with him if I'm one of these teams.
Okay, Kansas City, the 31st pick. We've had some fallers here. I think this is the Tyler Booker range, perhaps. Teteroa McMillan still available, and Amari and Hampton.
I'm going to go Amari and Hampton. I'll jump in on this one, DJ. I do. It's interesting talking to teams like as good as Hampton is. There's a gap. So I do think I don't know that it will be. Although I just talked to a team recently, they said that they wouldn't say they expected it, but it wouldn't be surprising if Hampton was still there start of the second night of the draft. But I just think that the Chiefs could use that. An explosive running back, someone who's a difference maker in the backfield with Mahomes. I honestly could see a running back in the first 2 or 3 picks for the Chiefs this year. I think like interior defensive line is a spot that they've got to address. Offensive line, obviously, they want to bolster and bring in competition and depth. But I could see running back in one of their first 3 picks this year.
Yeah, I mean, I just go purely at that point in the draft. If there's not a tackle that I'm intrigued in, then I know they went out and got a tackle on free agency. Like I'm buying all the tackles if I'm Kansas City because I've lost 2 Super Bowls because we stunk at those positions. So I'm just stacking up as much depth as possible there at the tackle position. But faced with these 3 options, Hampton's my 13th overall player. So you're talking about a ridiculous value here. And, with the offensive line does have issues, what does he give you? He gives you easy completions too out of the backfield. And he's a complete back. He's not bad in pass protection. Like there's a lot of value he provides other than just carrying the ball, which he's really good at.
Booker, I don't know where you guys have him. Like, where do you have him right now? Because I know
he's my 20th guy. He's my 20th guy.
Todd?
26.
26. Okay. I think the argument against Booker, at least here, is if there's one thing that you do really like with Kansas City, it's the interior guys. And they've invested so much in the interior guys. So then what are you doing, even if you're kind of like, man, we love Booker's tape and he's like one of the cleanest prospects here? It would also, I guess I'm a little surprised that I didn't hear more push for Tetaroa if that just becomes an evaluation of like overall guys here, because I know, like, let's do this exercise because you've both done it. Give me the argument for McMillan and the argument against, especially if he's there a little bit later, because there's, again, the mock. I don't know how much I want to let that influence me. I mean, there's certain people I trust, other guys I'm like, who the hell is this? Not that their work isn't good, but if I don't know them, you can see Tetaroa as high as like 4th overall pick, and you're like, okay, well, it seems like momentum wise, that's not where he is, even if, again, he was probably one of my favorite players to watch in college football this year. So give me the in the room argument, the pros and cons for him.
There's a lot of arguments right now going on about Ted McMillan, and I think he could go as high as 12 to Dallas. I think that's probably the jumping off point. There's a lot more frustration with him. The pros are very obvious, right? It's the length, the height, 6'4", 219, acrobatic catches, balls in the air. I think people want him to become the big time playmaker on the outside and that big time X, right? And Drake London is the comp that a lot of people want to give out. I thought Drake London was a little bit more of a dog though coming out. I thought that he more aggressive, more just attention to detail. Wasn't a great route runner. Took him about a year, but now he's 1,000+ receiving yard receiver for the Falcons. So I look at the frustration that talking to people in the league, and I see it on tape. It's not finishing routes. It's lack of attention to detail, not doing the little things. When Jed Fish was there, by all accounts, it was kind of foot on throat. We're going to be there and consistently work. And this past year with the frustrating quarterback with a different program, it was not the same guy in the building in practice and those sorts of things. So that's the kind of the back and forth that's going on in draft rooms with Tet.
Yeah, I'll give you the two different things in the meeting room. I'm pretty sure that this conversation's taken place in different meeting rooms in the pro and the con. So here's the pro one. Gosh, he's big, he's smooth, he's rangy, he's got an unbelievable catch radius. I mean, you can see it from his volleyball background. Then the other room, it's everything he doesn't have any urgency, doesn't attack the ball. He's a volleyball player. I mean, like that's literally the two conversations, which are almost identical, but viewed through a different lens.
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a really good example of this. Okay, let's have a little bit more fun here. Cincinnati, 17th pick in the first round. We've had some fallers. I don't know what's going on. Maybe McShay said on a tweet, but Tyler Warren's still on the board. Will Johnson's still on the board, and Mikael Williams still on the board for Cincinnati at 17. I don't know how it happened either, but draft is a mystery.
I think we're going to play a lot of 13 personnel. If I'm doing that, I know they've got tight ends, but I just can't pass on that dude, man. And he's just like, there's guys who are built for divisions. Like that guy was put on planet Earth to play in the AFC North. Like I'll take him every day of the week.
Yeah, I can't disagree. You'd love to get an edge there, but like it's just he's one of the best 5 football players in this draft. He's a difference maker. That entire offense ran through a tight end, and that's rare to see at that high of a level. And quite honestly, like if he gets past 7, I'll be surprised. With the New York Jets, and then I'd be really surprised if he got past 10. And so if he's there, like you don't even think about it. You don't look at your position needs or anything else. You walk that card in.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of political jokes I can make about a tweet going in either direction, but I'm just not going to do that to Tyler Warren. So let's leave it alone. All right, let's get a little dangerous here. Last one. Atlanta has been offered New Orleans' 9th pick and a future first for Michael Penix. New Orleans is like, look, we had the highest grade on him. You guys nailed it. You have this weird Kirk Cousins thing. We'll give you 9th. Maybe we'll even give you a 2nd, but we're going to give you a future first. So now Atlanta is on the board at 9. Shador's available. Jalen Walker's available. And let's say home state Will Campbell's still available.
I just fell off the truck when you said that they just traded Penix. So like, I don't know that I heard anything after that, Ryan. I think that one.
And why does it matter that Shador's on the board now?
Yeah, wait a minute. And I kind of screwed that up too.
No, it does. No, it does because you're saying it.
Shador's on the board, but Will Campbell now it doesn't. He's on the board, but again, he'd be going to Atlanta here, not New Orleans. So I misspoke. I made that one up on the fly.
I think usually when you laugh before you tell us the story, that's usually not going to end great. It's not going to end great.
Yeah, because I was going to do something where I was going to say like, all right, and then this guy tweeted January 6th wasn't that bad. And so now he's available at the beginning of the second round. And then you're like, I don't know what to do now. Yeah, but I didn't want to attribute that.
I do enjoy your last minute revelation scenarios. Like it's you just trying to get like the Tunsil 2.0, like what's going to be the shock value that could change the entire draft.
The Tunsil one. The Tunsil one is still, that doesn't get enough credit for how absolutely insane that was. Because then if you're in the war room, you're kind of like, hey, we love this guy. We love the grade. And like, maybe he smoked a ton of weed. We don't really care.
That's some of the weirdest television I've ever done. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, that was awkward, man.
I've never seen it before. I grew up in a bubble. I get it, but I've never seen that thing before.
Yeah, but I can't remember a moment that I wanted to like be so far away from. I just wanted like, please don't come to me on this. Like
we were live. I couldn't get away from it. We were live trying to digest what was going on, and we had the tweet with the video, but I don't think we had access to show it. So it's like, I think Rich Eisen was like, a video has emerged and like trying to describe what's going on. And I'm like, I think this guy's my number 1 or number 2 player of the entire draft. And I'm like, do you take him? I'm like, what's in that thing? I don't even know what was in that thing.
All right. So I guess I kind of, I know. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. So now Atlanta just got rid of their first round quarterback from last year because it was just like, look, the value coming in, even we like Penix. We're the ones who took him after we gave Kirk this big contract. So now we maybe play it out with Kirk. Shador's available. Will Campbell's available. And I said Walker out of Georgia.
So you're just going to double down on this thing, huh? You're not walking away?
You literally gave him the get out of jail free card.
We gave you a pass.
Just because this wasn't as straightforward as the other ones doesn't mean, you guys.
All right, so I'm in Atlanta, and I just gave away Penix, who showed some promise last year, who I absolutely love.
Who would be the first or second pick in this draft, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. To get a player in Shador that we're talking about could, if he doesn't go to the Giants at 3, fall to 21. Who are the options again? So I get Shador at 9. I'm Atlanta, and I just made an epically bad decision.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I like Penix too. I don't know that anybody likes Penix as much as Chris Collinsworth did that Sunday night.
Well, who is it against Washington?
That was like when you really like a player, and then
it makes you not like him.
That broadcast, I was like, my God. Now, granted, look, there's some nice throws in there, man. I mean, we all know why those of us that liked him coming out was like, I just get sick of even when I do it. So I can't get mad at anybody else for doing it. But whenever we're talking about the quarterbacks, it's like, man, that guy throws the best ball. They're like, cool.
And meanwhile, Atlanta has, I think, 5 picks in the entire draft. So now we're down to like probably 2 picks in this entire draft to move up to get Shador.
No, they're getting picks. They're getting picks.
That's the whole point.
Yeah.
All right, you know what?
Sorry, they're getting picks.
I'm going to write this one up.
You lost me at Penn. You did. I'm with you, DJ. You lost me at Penn.
The best part about this whole thing is I cannot wait for the aggregators to somehow confuse this and say McShay is reporting that the Falcons are trading Michael Penix.
Right. And they're moving up for Shador.
Okay, right. But just to cover for the aggregators here, you're not reporting that. Give me a name with a team in the first round. Todd, you go first. Be like, hey, of all the stuff, because there's always that guy every year. It's just everyone is saying this guy is going here.
Everyone is saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, DJ, but everyone I've talked to, everywhere I look, it's Ashton Ginty to the Raiders at 6, right?
Yeah, no, I've heard that a bunch, and a lot of it's with you bring in an older quarterback, you bring in an older coach, and they're trying to win this next year. This is not a team that's, they want to turn this thing around, and that's it's a big piece for them. So I've heard that. The other one I would say is the Houston Texans. It's going to be the law firm of Booker or Banks. Like they're drafting an offensive lineman between those two guys, whoever's there.
Give me a name, DJ. The NFL in 3 years is going to regret this guy did not go in the first round.
Gosh. Well, we'll see how high this guy goes, because I jumped on this bandwagon at the jump. But to me, when I looked at Jahdae Barron, he started, I was like my 9th player. I think he's like my 11th or 12th player out of Texas. And you say, okay, well then, yeah, obviously he's going to go in the first round. But like, dude, I thought Branch would go in the first round. I thought Cooper DeJean would go in the first round, and the league somehow punished these guys for being inside players, or moving to safety. He's going to be a nickel. Like, they're freaking great players, man. Just take them. So like that would be the one where I think, yeah, I'd be an upset if he didn't go in the first round. But I feel like I've seen this episode before, where I've seen a player of this caliber in this role slide when he shouldn't have.
I'll give you a couple pass catchers that I completely understand why they won't, but I could see, we look back at the end of their rookie year or after their second year and are like, man, maybe they should have gone in the first. And I think Mason Taylor at the tight end position has a chance to go late first. The Eagles in their situation with Goddard, I think that's a possibility. He's just so safe, and I think there's more in his game than what we even saw at LSU.
Dude. He's Zach Ertz.
Yeah. So, but Elijah Arroyo, he's had the injuries and the production was never great. And they spread the ball around in Miami with Cam Moore this past year. But my goodness, he has traits where I could see us after a year or two being like, how did 6'4" plus 251 pounds running the way he does, the explosiveness, he's just become a weapon in the NFL. And another, I love a lot of slot guys or smaller guys this year. Jalen Knoll from Iowa State. His route running it's like a thing of beauty. There should be like music played to when you're sitting watching tape, just like the crispness, the leverage, the stems, the in and out of breaks, competitiveness. He ran a 4.39, I think it was, at the combine. And in addition to, so, and I'm not saying he's Ladd McConkey, but I think, Ladd wound up going late in the first. I think Knowles is going to probably be later, like mid to late second. And talking to teams, maybe could be there early third, but I think those two players are going to wind up out wherever they get drafted. They have a really good chance to outplay their draft slot.
I'm glad you brought up Barron, DJ, just because we had Bruce Feldman on, who does a really cool version of the mock, just because he talks to so many coaches, right? So you're getting the college coaches and putting together. It's not like it's 32 different names. But Barron, one SEC coach, is saying, quote, his ability to adjust, triggers elite, footwork really clean, excellent open field tackle. I thought this guy was the best player on that team. Talking about Barron, because you're right. And again, I don't want to be dismissive of the mock world, but Barron, it's almost like some guys I've seen that are legitimate places as if they've completely forgotten about him. And then I think there's some of the guys that maybe I trust a little bit more that still have him ahead of Will.
It's interesting too, like everyone kind of ignore, you get to this time of year, and I think college coaches it's all about recruiting, right? My guy's the best. And let me tell you a story about him in practice. And I get that, because you, as a young player, high school kid, you want to see that your coach is going to promote you and help your journey, if you will, to the NFL. But when you get to talk to some coaches off mic, if you will, and to hear who were the problems? Like, I remember Daboll, like that clip, right, with the Giants in their war room talking about Nick Saban. I talked to Nick, and he used to work for Nick Saban. And the two guys that were problems, Jaden Daniels, Brock Bowers. We didn't have answers for those guys. Like, I'm just I don't know what your board is. I don't know what you're considering. But if you want to ask me who are the two problems that we had, it was Bowers and Daniels. And so I find that stuff fascinating too, because if a coach is willing to actually talk about like the game plan and how difficult it was to prepare for some of these guys, there's some good information there.
Yeah, this also is the time of year, like you said, Todd, where like the graphic that's already been made by your social media department about the number of first round picks you have at your school was in jeopardy because the guy's dropping, and you hear from the head coach of like, I don't understand why he's not going in there. I'm like, I don't pick. I'm not picking here, coach. I got no power here whatsoever.
Yeah, that's why when I was looking at Michigan again and I was going over it, just getting ready for it, and like they could have four guys go in the top 15, 16 picks here. And you're like, if they had one guy to throw a forward pass, this season.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Because you're just not going to have that kind of run of talent where half the first round is coming from one program. I know, look, clearly there's other programs that put a ton of first rounders in the same exact year, but that stood out considering their problems on offense. All right, last question then here, and it actually has to do with college football. It's the Nico Iamaleava saga here, where if you don't know the full timeline, big NIL deal to get him to Tennessee from California. I would say this first year probably was disappointing based on the hype. I feel like I watched him a lot, kept waiting for that breakout game. So you want to get back to hey, he throws a really nice ball evaluation. It's like, okay, what about the rest of the stuff? Then apparently it was reported that Dan Lanning had heard that he was sniffing around for more money, and that he told Tennessee that. Tennessee's now said, all right, fine, go somewhere else. So now he's looking for a new home. There's also another story that was reported that maybe some of the Tennessee guys were asking for more money ahead of the playoffs. So let me set it up this way, because there's two parts that I want to get your thoughts on. I know that I've evolved in the way that I look at certain things with college football. The money part never bothered me, and I'm glad that they're making money. I think there was a time when I believed that you should have to sit out a year because it would be chaotic. And now I look at it and going, it is chaotic, maybe more than anybody expect, but I don't have any issues with any of this stuff anymore. So when I look at the Nico story, it feels like this is just a free for all, and everybody's, again, looking out for yourself. So I can't necessarily have a problem with that. But then this kind of mercenary approach where it's like, man, even mercenaries have like some sort of code. So Nico's taken a ton of heat. If he played better, he would be criticized less. But there's probably, one, it's a state of college football question that you guys can take it wherever you want to go to. But then also what kind of evaluation element, and we're still talking about a younger player here, but he's draft eligible in a couple of years, how this will be looked at. Now, granted, if he just plays a lot better than he did this past year, maybe people get past it. They blame the dad and all that kind of stuff. But Daniel, let's go with you first.
Yeah, first of all, it's a system issue more than the player issue. Like, just set it up where these guys are locked in with contracts. Like, you get the money, but you have to commit to us as we're committing to you. Like, however, I don't know all the legalities of that, but figure out a formula and a system where we can have it just like we have it at the professional level, because this is professional football now. The second thing is, and I posted something about this, and it wasn't necessarily specifically about Nico. I don't know any of these guys' situations. I don't. And I'm always reluctant to be lobbing grenades from the sideline with partial information. I just know, I know of stories during this era, Todd, where I know where a prospect has told the NIL agent, do not let it get out how much money I'm making, because my family's going to come for all of it. And that's aunts and uncles and parents and nephew. Everybody is going after that. So I'm always reluctant when they're like, and people said like, oh, $2 million isn't it enough? And I'm like, look, I don't know this kid from Adam, but in Southern California, $2 million, and you got a bunch of aunts and uncles and cousins and parents that you would have to prop up, that money's gone. So I don't begrudge anybody for trying to go get more money. I don't know what situation they're in. To me, the system is what the heck's got to be fixed.
It absolutely is the system. And there's a lot we literally could do an hour on this, right? And I think we're in a unique position because the background checks, the information we get from scouts and personnel departments and former FBI agents and everything that they do to get all this information. And more so this year than ever, I'm getting stories about like this guy, he made $4 million over his course of his career, or $2 million or $6 million or whatever it is. And he's going to be broke when he gets to the league. Mm-hmm. And it's the people he's surrounding himself with. And now that group of people kind of always, and whether it's like, the agent and the agent's runner, all the stuff that we started to hear about, like they're going into their rookie year, we're now hearing about it coming out of high school. Okay. And we're hearing more stories. Like recently I was just talking to a GM and he was saying like, yeah, and we're like, he made all this money. Like dad spends half of it at the casinos. We got, he's got 10 people in his circle and they've all got their hands. So like big picture, I think all the rational people can agree on a couple things. One is it is a massive multi-billion-dollar industry. And these individuals are putting their livelihoods, it seems extreme, but they're putting a lot on the line and they deserve to be paid. Okay. Second part is the system. There needs to be a governing body. And I point to Nick Saban, and maybe it's not Nick, but it's got to be someone who actually just cares about college football, not about the politics of it, not just about putting a system in place where the assistant coaches are going to get so run down. Guys from college football, we're talking to Jeff Hafley recently when he left Boston College. Like, I just want to coach ball again. Everyone's having to do so many things that are not related to football. So there's got to be some kind of CBA. There's got to be some kind of salary cap. I also think this, and I know I'll take heat for this. There's got to be some kind of system set in place where there's a trust set up. Because I know when I was 18, 19, 20, 21, if you gave me all that money and if I had a group of people that was trying to get that money from me and I was trying to live this certain life, like all of a sudden that money probably would have been gone. And I would have appreciated it if I was able to access that money later and it was protected. So I don't know that all those things will happen, but I'd like to see steps with the right people in place, steps moving forward towards something that caps it, makes it reasonable. Players still get paid a lot of money because they deserve it, but they're able to hold on to that, and that money means something to them. And when they get into their 20s and in their 30s, and life has much bigger decisions, and there's some longevity to that money, and it's not just in the moment. Mom and dad have their hands out, uncles and aunts and cousins and friends and all. Like, it's the reports I'm getting from these background checks is scary, and it's heading in a direction that no one wants to see it go.
Good stuff on that. You know how much I appreciate the hour I can get with you guys in a really busy part of the season. I'll tell you the real winner today is McShay's posture. You looking at his shoulders, Jeremiah? Look at
what do we got here? He just looks
Ugh.
widened out, like broadened up.
I get excited. So I'm like,
Hey,
They
look,
sent me, I got a video game chair, so I look like a 14-year-old here. But they
cool
sent me this thing from the network, and it's got this it's got like the lower back thing that it feels like it literally is shoving me out of my office. Like it's just like pushing my lower lumbar.
Trying to get you back in studio.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know that this is supposed to be comfortable, right? Like, how do these kids play video games in this thing all day long? I'm dying over here.
I love it though. Never stop evaluating. I know you guys still have some work to do. We're looking forward to Jeremiah's coverage on NFL Network live from Green Bay for the entire draft and Move the Sticks. So subscribe with he and Bucky Brooks and check out that pod. And I know McShay's got the McShay show going, 3, 4, 5 days a week? I mean, you're just firing out. You're like new guy right now.
DJ, you ready for this?
Yes, sir.
I texted Russillo and basically like, the old town, right? When it's like, we're going to hurt somebody. We're going to go do something. Right. And the response was like, whose car are we taking?
Yes,
right?
yes.
I basically played that out on text. We're taking over Russillo's pad on Saturday.
Ooh.
We're gonna do a live stream Saturday of the draft. We had to find something different and fun, so we're gonna go eat his food, drink his drinks, storm his house. I'm gonna.
How
try
many
to
hours
get him,
is it again?
Don't worry about it.
I am
late.
worried about it.
You already said yes, and I'm trying to get him to run.
Yes to an hour.
I'm trying to get him to run a 40-yard. It's not an hour, so just hunker down, big boy. I'll have you done and ready for the NBA playoffs that night. I know that's all you care about, but I want to get him to run a 40-yard dash. We haven't talked about that part yet.
On the sand?
Well, I want him to have a good time, so maybe up on one of the side roads.
I think you go on the sand because that eliminates any pressure for him to chase the time and get hurt. Then it's
true.
So that's
look. I'll just tell you, going
a sand adjusted 40 times.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I think we have a squat rack, so I can bench for you maybe, depending on the day. But if I do triceps 2 days ahead of that, then I'm not going to give you my best bench numbers. But when you guys said that I wouldn't run a sub 6, where I think Eisen, that's kind of his range.
Yeah.
No, I said a sub 5.
Yeah, sub 5. Because when you said sub 6, I'm like, you guys can
no
sub.
Yeah, you're not running sub 5. I would agree with that.
Sub 5.
Yeah.
I think like a 5-1 at this point in our life.
That's fantastic. 5-1. An injury-free 5-1 is a W.
It's a W.
You know what's great for your body?
5-5 in the sand.
Sprinting after not sprinting. Because we did this once at Van Pelt where it was just kind of a funny revelation. It was like, when's the last time you ran as fast as you possibly could?
Man.
And when you get past a certain age, you're kind of like, yeah, when would that have been? When's the last time I was like, I'm just going to run as fast as I possibly can? So
I would be scared to death to run as fast as I could for 40 yards.
Dude, I did a 5K. This is maybe 5 years ago. It was like a flat course down in Coronado Island, if you know San Diego. Like literally, I'm like, I just want to run the fastest 5K that I can. And so they have a photographer, and It was the most depressing thing I've ever seen, where I thought that I was like my athletic young self and like striding it out and finishing in a full sprint. The picture that they sent me is the most unathletic, most in pain, miserable human being you've ever seen in your life. And I was like, yeah, I don't need to be sprinting anymore. This is not good. What I think is happening and what is really happening are two totally different things.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now some people are listening to this right now and be like, why would these guys be judging other athletes? And it's like, because they understand regression, right? They understand foot speed. They understand just getting his foot in the ground and then turning out of it. So I'm glad we had this time with you guys, despite where you're at right now athletically, despite where we all are. All right. Thanks again to Todd and Daniel Jeremiah. We'll talk to you soon.
See you, dude.
See you, bud.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. Great teams need great coaches, and when it comes to insurance, your State Farm agent is there to help you find the right coverage for your home, car, and more. They're local and ready to assist when life hits you with a full court press. Get a game plan that helps you fit your life and talk to a State Farm agent today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. State Farm, Bloomington, Illinois. Coverage options are selected by the customer. Availability and eligibility vary by state.
You want details? Fine. I drive a Ferrari 355 Cabriolet. What's up? I have a ridiculous house in the South Fork. I have every toy you can possibly imagine. And best of all, kids, I am liquid. So, now you know what's possible. Let me tell you what's required.
Life Advice, the email address, lifeadvicerr@gmail.com. We have, we're plug and play right now. Kyle is off. He said he would do Life Advice, but at the same time, I don't think out of the gate with him being off, we should be asking him to work again. Wargon's always lingering, but we do have Ceruti with us post kid number 2. So how many days in are we talking?
She's a week today. Sleep has been, not awesome. Probably worse for my wife than me, but it's kind of funny because a bunch of people said this, and it's just true to live it. Is like the second one, you just worry about so much less shit. It's like it's kind of like more chill. Like you got another kid, but also like I'm just not worried about the same stuff I was worried about with the first one. You're like, yeah, it'll probably be fine. This is fine. Like we don't have to worry about it. Like we didn't have anything. She came about a month early. We didn't have really anything ready. We didn't have a name when we first went to the hospital, so we're feeling good right now. We have a name, so that's good.
I do like that though. The kid number 2. I mean, you get to kid number 5, like the kid's driving a car smoking cigarettes by 8, and you're like, just let them live.
Raising the other kids. Yeah.
Yeah. It is incredible if you're from a bigger family, just the standard of concern about things. At least, I don't know. That's been my experience seeing stuff. All right. Wargon, I think the Hey Guys alert, I think we just bring them in. Why wait, right?
Let's do it.
Yeah. Are you ready for this, Wargon?
Hey, guys. Yeah, I'm always ready. Always standing by.
He's always ready. Are you a Raiders fan?
I am a Raiders fan, unfortunately, yeah. It's been tough.
Ashton Genty, here we come.
Yeah, I don't know if I like the Genty pick, but neither here nor there.
It's a very Raiders pick.
Yeah, it totally is.
Well, yeah, but what about like Brady and you got Chip Kelly, Pete Carroll, guys with great resumes.
I forgot Chip was there.
Chip.
Yeah.
See if we can get him on. Yeah. All right. Let's see here. I think we start out of the gates with a different one. I mean, this is so strange, but I could also see myself doing this, but then also not doing this. I'm a little worried it may not be real, but it is so specific that we're going to go with it.
Yeah, let's give it a shot.
Yeah. All right. Did I help a guy out with an act of kindness, or did I do something weird? 6'2", 205, mid-30s, basketball comp is Pitt's Sam Young with all the pump fake and none of the athleticism. Sam Young was an old soul, but incredible pump fake. I'm a day removed from doing something in the spur of the moment I thought was an awesome gesture for a fellow guy, but after telling my wife and having her call me weird, I'm starting to question myself. I was grabbing food to go inside at Raising Cane's. Shout out Todd Graves, friend of the program. He was grabbing Raising Cane's for dinner. As I was waiting for my food, I noticed a guy in his mid-20s. Let's call him Greg. Greg is moving to Staten Island. Sitting at a table nearby, he's a bit rough looking and by himself before an employee sits down and begins going through what sounds like a job interview. I can tell Greg is a bit nervous with the way he's stumbling through his words as they exchange basic information. At this point, my food was ready, and after grabbing it and making my way to the exit, I decided to help Greg out. As I passed the table, I leaned in and said, "Sorry for interrupting, but I just wanted to say this is one of the best guys I know."
Oh, no.
Greg's face immediately betrayed the fact that we had never met, but the interviewer's attention was on me, so I don't believe he noticed. The interviewer gave me a slight smile and nod, and as I said, "I'll let you get back to it," and left.
What?
This is fucking crazy. I left feeling excited that I might have just helped Greg land a job. I got home and gave my wife the rundown. She did not share my enthusiasm. Amongst many other negative reasons, she said I could have put Greg in an awkward spot, having to lie about how he knows me. She also brought up that I have no idea about Greg's background and could have fully endorsed a criminal as a great guy. Well, I think she's assuming a lot that Greg just seems shy. We don't know that. Now I'm questioning did I actually make Greg's situation worse? Did I betray the trust of a restaurant I regularly go to? If this were a lower end fast food place, would I even be thinking about it? I love the standard of Raising Cane's is so high that he's like, I don't want to mess with their employee screening. Did I? So, yeah, right. We're not going to name other names like Danny Cannell did about a sponsor.
Trash
I
fries.
guess, just trashing the French fries is one of our biggest sponsors. Like, what do you guys like those fries? Those are trash fries. Like, thanks.
Thanks, Danny.
Coming up next on the fill in the blank hotline. I guess the gist is this. I guess the gist is this. Was this cool to do, or should I file it away and not entertain it again?
Feels like one of those things that you screwed up once. I don't think you need to do it again. Here's the thing: you didn't ruin this guy's life. You didn't ruin the Raising Cane situation. But I don't know that this helps or hurts. It just kind of makes you look a little bit weird. I didn't really think about putting him on the spot to have to explain who you are. But I think if the guy just says, "Hey, I have no idea who that person is," so they probably just move on and nothing really matters. I don't think in the grand scheme of things you screwed anything up really. But now you're gonna have to go back into that Raising Cane's because you said you're kind of a regular. And like, what if that guy recognizes you and he's working there? I mean, I guess you'll find out eventually whether or not it worked out or not. Maybe you go in next time. He's like, "Hey man, really appreciate the the boost there. I ended up getting the gig." Or maybe he's like, "What the hell was that? I don't want to work with this guy." So I don't think there's any real harm here, but you're kind of a weirdo by doing this. I'm going to be honest.
I just think this is fucking weird. Like, what are you gaining from this if you're this guy? Something similar kind of happened to me with my Ringer interview, where I got on with the guy and he was like, "I'll make this short because like we know each other so well. Like, I'm going to recommend you for this job, blah, blah, blah." And I finished the call and I was like, "I've never met that guy before in my life." But
was it with
I got
me?
the job. It might have been you, yeah. With our ESPN time together. Yeah. So that worked out really well for me. Yeah. I'll tell you after.
You got in and it was like, "Hey, I know you're great, blah, blah, blah." And
he's like, "We worked together for so long." Yeah, exactly. I must just have like one of those faces.
Got the letter of recommendation from Russillo, apparently. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I thought we worked together at ESPN and that's how you got into Ringer. So now I'm wondering, did I interview you? Does the person still work here?
They don't, no.
That's why you're comfortable telling us this story.
Right.
Okay.
Then you didn't correct the interviewer.
No, why would I?
You don't. No, you wouldn't. Yeah. No.
You just like laugh along. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you deserve?
I don't know you.
Do you think you deserve this job?
I was already working part-time here. This was just for like the full-time position. So you be the judge.
It's fair. He's put the work in. I think it's worked out all right.
He's so likable, Wargon, that people are like, "Look, we've been through the mill together."
People want to know him. People want to be associated with Wargon. I get it.
I know. He's so freaked out by this. He swore, which doesn't happen a lot. I kind of like our emailer. I don't know what there is about this, but it is weird. And you're right, because Greg then has to say to the guy, if the interviewer Raising Cane's is saying, "Hey, like, what the hell was that? Like, how do you know that guy?" And then is he going to lie? Yeah, I know him from the country club. is he going to just go, I have no idea who that is? But then that weirdly connects the interviewer and interviewee, where they have a shared moment specific to them of like, yeah, that was really strange. And then it's an icebreaker. So maybe our emailer helped out Greg in an indirect way. And even though his wife probably made a lot of good points, I think it's really funny. It tells me more about your personality that you came home to tell her, to be like, guess what I did today? But
Good
she already
Samaritan
knows.
over here. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, my guess is you do some stuff like this. You probably talk to strangers in general a little bit, but like in the friendliest way possible. And your wife already knows what she signed up for, so she can't be entirely shocked about this. There's one part of this that I don't know that you need to worry about. If Greg works there, doesn't work there. If Greg works there at Raising Cane's, it doesn't work out. I imagine the turnover, is a little bit quicker in the food service industry. I imagine you're still going to be able to get your chicken fingers from this day moving forward. Yeah.
Your picture's not up on the wall, like do not serve.
Yeah.
That's not happening.
Right. Of all the places where you could go, like I think Raising Cane's, it's still going to work out for you long term. So I wouldn't have any anxiety about going back there and getting your chicken fingers after this move, because I think they're still going to give you the chicken.
I think that's fair.
I think it is too. All right. Let's see. All right. We'll keep it simple here. Love triangle and a cat. 21 years old, 6'2", 190, no gym stats. Player comp, Sam Perkins, also a DJ. Sam Perkins. I have no idea if this emailer's a DJ. Long-time listener, first-time emailer. Sorry for the long email, but here we go. It's actually not that long. The people that write really long ones never apologize for how long they are. Just
self-awareness.
No, there is a study. I'm not going to do it, but there's something there about how often the person that apologizes for the length of the email, it's always the shortest one, and the people that write in books never apologize. I don't know if it's narcissism. I don't know what it is. Is it? Okay. Sorry for the long email, but here we go. My fiance is in her last year of college, graduates in December. It has. Oh, okay. We needed a comma in there.
Get her grad degree. That's All right.
No. My fiance is in her last year of college. Pause.
Oh,
graduates in December. Yeah, because I thought we were talking grad school.
Okay, so they're
undergrad engagement.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Here we go. 2 roommates, one of which is closer than the other. We will call her Olivia. That's a nice name. Great job.
It's a popular one. Trust me, I got a lot of name knowledge these days.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because you want to pick, kind of a unique name, but not one that everybody uses. And Olivia, I feel like, has been like in the top 3 for 10 straight years.
Were you guys like
Olivia,
checking stats?
Oh yeah, I was on the baby name stuff, like looking around. And Sophia is another popular one. I think Emma, something like that is in there. There's a couple that are just always in the top 5, but Olivia has been one for a long time.
I'm not thrilled with what this generation has done with the names. Just as an aside.
What do you mean?
And look, my name, my parents decided to just make it different. So, and for whatever reason, people think I have to explain it on a day-to-day basis. So just a warning to some of you more creative namers out there. There's a line. There's a line of what your son or daughter is going to deal with filling out paperwork or doing something over the phone or whatever. It's just, do you want to give them a name where every fucking day of their lives they're going to have to explain it? It's worth asking yourself that question when you're going through the process of naming somebody. But there's some names where I'm like, you're starting to name kids after like inanimate objects and stuff because you're showing how weird and like Apple. I know you used to go to Coachella, but now it's kind of played out. You don't go now.
Yeah, what if your kid doesn't like Coachella?
No, I'm just think there's going to be some names 20 years from now where you're going to be some parents going, could have been a little more traditional.
It's kind of
a younger audience.
It's swung back though to traditional now. Like the grandma names are kind of back in. Genevieve and Margaret,
Eleanor's
Dottie,
back.
Eleanor, Eloise.
Dottie's not back. Dottie's.
Well, you don't know. I don't know. Maybe Dottie. I don't know any Dotties, but give it 10 years. You never know. I was thinking about the other day. I haven't met a baby named Steve. I couldn't tell you the last time it was a Steve. I think Steve's out. Just
You hang
people
out with a
don't
lot of
name their kids
babies?
Steves anymore. Well, no, but I don't know that there are like a bunch of Steves in the. Well, that's not true because now I might bring my daughter to daycare. There's no baby Steves. None. Done.
What about Mike? That's
Yeah, how's Mike doing?
I imagine the Mike run is over. That was a long run you guys had.
Yeah, but I feel like Michael is still in. Ryan's definitely still in. Not your Ryan, but the greater Ryan.
The greater Ryan.
What does that mean?
Not with the E. The E is, what I don't understand is like we want to name our kid something, but we're just gonna like throw in more vowels, not a different vowel. But
there's
like,
a lot of X's. There's a lot of like EIGHs where there doesn't need to be.
Saxon's a perfect example. Jackson with an X. Like what? That's strange. Or like Amy with 2 E's. Or just throwing unnecessary vowels in there. So we know what the name is. Why do you have to spell it this way? So I don't know.
Yeah, look, every now and then I'll be watching something going, were they creative or do they not know how to spell?
Well, it's honestly
but I know that I can say that.
You can. Yeah, you're part of the group. Yep.
I'm allowed to have a moment where I go, did you guys just make up that name? I don't know what's going on there. All right. Let's get back to the email.
Anyway, yep. Let's talk in names.
I didn't want to say this.
I
didn't want to say this. Oh, do you want to share it or no?
Yeah, we call it. Her name's Hallie. Hallie. Hallie.
That works.
Yeah.
Wargon. What would you name your son?
Oof. I haven't thought about it at all. Not Mike.
I don't want to say this to you because your name's Mike, but I always felt like a lot of parents are just like, I would just throw a Mike on it.
I was named after Michael Jordan. They just won the 3-peat. I was born on the 23rd, so my dad figured, why not?
That's kind of sick. You're not a Bulls fan, though?
Not a Bulls fan, no.
Okay.
But they were going to name me Michael Jordan. But they didn't.
Michael Jordan Wargon?
My dad was like, I don't think he can live up to it, so they named me Michael Jared.
What? Jesus.
True story.
Wait, your dad?
Yeah, he literally thought that. He was like, don't think he can live up to it.
He's like, nah, I don't think his kid's got it. Can't do it.
Jordan was pretty good, man. I don't know.
Dude, that's incredible.
I can't fucking believe you were named after Michael Jordan.
Damn, dude.
Willie Mays died. All right, let's get back to this. All right, so fiance's in the last year of graduate studies in December, has 2 roommates, one of which she is closer with than the other. We will call her Olivia. I did not live with them, and their lease on their apartment ends in May. So they want to get a new place to last them the rest of the school year after summer break. Because me and my fiance are getting married soon, probably this summer, that means I would have to go in on a house apartment with them there. There's only one problem. There's a stray cat that lives around the apartments, and Olivia started to feed it food. This then became what I could imagine is his main source of food, so he started to hang around the door. Next thing you know, she started letting the cat inside. At first, it would just come in the walkway to eat the food out of Olivia's hand, but now she's letting it all over the place. The cat is all over the couches, kitchen, and even the rooms, and all Olivia has said about it was, quote, I sprayed the couch with tick repellent, end quote. And now there's another stray cat that started coming into the apartment. Olivia now wants to trap and keep. Trap is an interesting term.
Man,
I think the cat is willing to be adopted in this scenario. Trap and keep one of them and take it with her to the new house apartment whenever we get into one of the following months. My fiance is not on board with this, and neither am I. What do we say without sounding too mean? Olivia is 100% on board with this and sees nothing wrong. Any advice would be greatly appreciated. She's currently playing with the couch, she's currently playing with the cat on the couch as I'm typing this. So we were getting a live look in.
Sounds like you got a cat, brother. I don't know what to tell you.
Or a new roommate. Like, what's the holdup? You don't want the cat. The fiance doesn't want a cat. I guess you're younger, rent purposes alone. You're going to be living with another person, despite the fact that you're getting married. And I'm not judging because I don't know the finances, but you're already asking for, I think, extra trouble when you're going, we're getting married this summer and we're going to have a roommate. Some people it works. And then some people do this and they end up having, some TV series about them. and plenty of acreage outside. So I think with this, we could just call this a democracy and go, hey, cool cat collection, but it's 2-1. End of discussion. Like, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with a good old house vote?
Yeah, it's not like you're completely abandoning the cat either. Just keep it outside. You can keep feeding it, but it just can't hang out on the couch with you guys. That seems a reasonable. Again, this person's probably not reasonable if they're going to put up a huge fight about it, and then maybe that just now you have more motivation to get out of your current situation and live solo or a duo with your wife. But yeah, I think you just say, we don't want this. Could you get the landlord involved? Like, is there a way to just be like, could you just make up something that like you can't have pets that you forgot about to put in the original contract? I don't know.
Say you're allergic
I'm
or something.
sure he's not excited about this cat either.
Yeah, I mean, this, honestly, I don't even really know, like, have some sack on this one. Like, I mean, I'm sorry to be such a, Neanderthal about it, but you're worried about a conversation with somebody that's going to be moving in a new place with you and your wife this summer, and she's going to tell you how it's going to go with street cats.
Didn't you tease this email as a love triangle?
Yeah, the love of cats.
Okay. And then my other question is, it's
Am I
April
being
15th.
mean here?
How are you probably getting married in the summer? I feel like you either are or you aren't at this point.
That's a good point.
Who knows? See which way the cat vote goes.
Yeah,
what
right.
If it's 2-1 and against him, and his wife
Yeah.
betrays him, and she's like, actually, I'm kind of into these cats that could have diseases, but we do have tick repellent, so don't worry about it. Get over it. So the vote goes against him. Next thing you know, engagement's off.
It's off.
Yeah. I have a cat. I don't think I'm ever going to get another cat. Just not for
Cats
me.
don't do it for me. No.
They're just not. My wife wanted it. We got it as a present. I guess it could be worse. I'd hate to take a shot
Could
at a
have
guy
2
who's not
cats.
here. Could have 5 rabbits. That'd probably be worse. But the cat thing,
5.
the litter box,
He
is
wishes he
disgusting.
had 5.
Yeah, it's growing. It just, I don't know. Not a cat guy.
I'm not a stray cat guy with my wife and another roommate guy. So
There's too many variables.
right. And our emailers should aspire to reach the same point in life. So you just get it. This is a non-starter, man. This is a non-starter.
Put your
Like,
foot
she's-
down. Yeah, this is you. Put your big boy pants on. Your groom pants on. Your married man pants on. Eventually, if you want to. Yeah, honestly, like
Your tailored
your
pants,
wife.
you
Yeah,
know?
your tailored pants. Exactly. Your wife's not into this. It sounds, or your future wife's not into this. So this seems like a total win for you to stand up and be like the hero in this situation. So that's what I would do.
Yeah.
And then lock in that you're actually going to get married this summer.
Lock that in. Who knows? Maybe she'll be like, let's move up the date. You handled the cat thing so well. All right, that'll do it for our show today. Thanks to Wargon, which unbelievable. I can't wait every day with you, man. There's just a new angle, and I love all of them. All right, so we will talk to you on Thursday. We'll do a ton of NBA stuff. I think we're going to save the ballot stuff because I got to do all my votes later today. I think it's just better if Bill and I go through it and save it for the Sunday thing, even though we'll have real playoff games. But there's probably, I think, some value in just going back and forth with somebody else who also has a vote. So I got to do the ballot today, and then I'll pick all the playoff series on Thursdays. So thanks to Ceruti, thanks to Wargon, thinking of Kyle, thanks to Jonathan Frias. We are a Spotify video podcast on the app, so subscribe to the pod. Super easy. Also subscribe to the YouTube page. Probably get something going there, NBA related, fairly soon. So thanks as always for listening. Ryen Russillo Podcast, Ringer Spotify.
Hey, guys.
Must be 21 and older and present in select states. For Kansas, in affiliation with Kansas Star Casino, or 18 plus and present in D.C. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts or call 1-877-8 HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.